Okay.
Yeah.
We're honored to have the Nature Boy, Buddy Landell, with us today, and it's just going to be a laid-back interview session. We'll ask him a few questions. He's going to give us some honest answers. And the first question everybody wants to know is, how did you break into the business?
Well, I've always been a wrestling fan. I was privileged enough to being from Knoxville, Tennessee. We had great wrestlers. I mean, coming through there. At that time, everything was territorial, and so we got to get we got to get a lot of great selection of guys coming and going, just passing through or whatever, from Hulk Hogan when he was Sterling Golden to Jerry Lawler to just to a lot of guys you probably wouldn't know, but it's really great. Now, anyway, I grew up watching it and never really thought about it. I wrestled in school and played football. I was big into sports, and my sister's girlfriend was a camera girl at the local affiliate in Knoxville, and she took me down one night and introduced me to some of the guys, Bob Root, Bob Orton Jr., and I was about 16, and so I dropped out of school my junior year, after football season my junior year, and started training with Dean Malenko's dad, Professor Malenko, and that's how I got started.
Did you know at that point when you dropped out that professional wrestling was going to be what you did for the rest of your life?
I don't even know if I was thinking the other day, I don't even know if I really ever thought about that. I mean, when you're 17 years old, you don't think of a future or career or anything like that. I just knew that I knew that I was around. I knew I was cut out for the business because just the way, just the lifestyle. I loved it, man. I loved it. 17, you're around guys that you watched on TV for years, and the women and just everything. It was just great. I never really thought about what I was going to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Who did you grow up like idolizing as far as a wrestler goes?
Let's see. I really liked Bob Root and Bob Orton Jr. and Ronnie Garvin. Mm-hmm. Those are the guys that Randy Savage, Malenko, the Assassin, guys like that were the predominant ones in the territory of Knoxville. Mm-hmm. Dick Slater, Ron and Robert Fuller, Jimmy Golden, and those were it was Southeastern Championship Wrestling. Then prior to my quitting and starting wrestling, Southeastern split. The Fullers and Slater and Kevin Sullivan, all those guys went this way. Roop, Orton Jr., Garvin, Savage, and all these guys went this way. It was called All-Star. And I went with these guys. I went with All-Star. And at that time, they were having shoot challenges. I mean, they really didn't like each other. I mean, it wasn't a work. I mean, it was a shoot. They didn't like each other. And here I am, 17 years old. I never got smartened up. I mean, nobody's smartened me up for a long time, Then after I went through my training and started riding up down the road with these guys were carrying guns. And it was bad. It was a bad situation. It was just real bad. It was real scary because they were challenging each other on each other's television. And I was scared to death, because Ronnie Garvin was, I grew up watching him just like everybody now. I mean, the Hands of Stone. I mean, he wasn't the Hands of Stone back then. He was the one-man gang. And, he beat everybody up, and he was legitimately tough in real life. And I knew he was tough in real life. And, he was, Dick Slater and all these other guys were challenging him, to fight. And so there was instances like where we were at a bar and they would walk in. There was some fights that that went on. I think Bob Roop and Buzz Sawyer got into a fight one time in a local bar in Knoxville. But it was real bad. It was scary for me because I was just a kid, riding up down the road with these guys with guns, and I thought I had my own idea that wrestling wasn't real, but these guys brought it to a new level. Yeah. I mean, I thought, Jesus, this stuff. I don't know if I'm going to be cut out for this or not.
So you trained at the Malenko school. What was that like?
No, I trained in Knoxville, Tennessee. Malenko was living there.
Okay.
And I had a car in school, a little Datsun B210, and Malenko told me, this is 1979, Malenko said, do you want to train us? Yeah, he says, it's $1,500. I mean, $1,500 to a 17-year-old kid in 1979, that's a lot of damn money, you know. And so I sold my car. That's how bad that I wanted it. I mean, I just wanted it really bad. And I know he had a meeting, about 25 guys showed up at a Holiday Inn, you know, and he was just like briefing everybody on what to expect and how much it was, this, that, and the other. About maybe 10 guys. He had like a free tryout, you know. He had to have a hook, I mean, you know. So his hook was, he gave him a free tryout. I was the only guy that made it through the tryout. Of course, I was just coming out of, when I was a freshman in high school, I was 6 foot 210. And then after wrestling, I dropped down to 190. So by the time I was training with Malenko, I was 190, and I was in real good shape. And I was the only guy that made it through the training. And so I did my training in Knoxville, Tennessee, over at the bubble, the dome, the inside arena where the University of Tennessee football players practice at when it's raining on Tom Black track. So that's where I did my training at. And I did my physical conditioning. You know, I didn't have any in-ring time.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have. My introduction into wrestling was strictly conditioning. And I trained night and day, man, for 6 months, 6 or 8 months. I didn't. Before he would teach me how to lock up, before he ever talked to me about a hold, and he never discussed the business with me. He treated me like a total mark, man, my whole training. Mm-hmm. Never would discuss the wrestling business with me. Kayfabe, talked to him, Carney, the whole 9 yards. And I had to run 5, this is at one time, in one day to graduate, or whatever you call it. I had to run 5 miles, do 500 squats and 500 push-ups at one sitting without stopping before he would teach me how to lock up. And so finally I built, you know, one day I ran the 5 miles, did 500 squats and 500 push-ups without stopping, and that's how, you know, then they put me in the ring and beat the shit out of me, man. Yeah. I mean, you know, I never, my first year in the business, I never rode in a car. I rode in the back of the ring truck, summer, hotter than hell, winter, colder than you know what, and rode in the back of the ring truck, and set the ring up, refereed and wrestled, tore the ring down, went home for 1 whole year. It's my first year in the business. I think that's what's wrong with the business nowadays. Guys don't respect the business. The first thing the guy wants to do is he starts training. He wants to know what his gimmick's going to be, what move he's going to do from the top rope. But back when I broke in, they beat respect into you.
Do you remember your first match?
Hell yeah, Bob Orton Jr., Johnson City, Tennessee.
What was the date on that?
Around October of '79. I started training in March of '79. I was 17. And,
so you started off getting a lot of work in Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, you know, I can't really remember how much work I was getting. I was on the road a lot. And then shortly after I started training, I mean, shortly after I broke in, I mean, got my first match and that, I moved to Lexington, Kentucky, and lived with Randy Savage in his gym. He had a gymnasium there. And I slept in a storefront window. It was an old converted storefront building. He converted it into a wrestling, you know, like a little wrestling school. And I slept in a storefront window. Me and a girl wrestler, me and a lady wrestler. It was wild.
Were there any guys that like helped you out a little much breaking into the business?
No, man. Well, you know, they beat the crap out of me. I mean, they
just took their turns. Huh?
They just took their turns and beat the shit out of me, man. And I always watched all the matches. I went out and watched. So, I was fortunate enough to break into business with guys that were super, super talented. You got Malenko, which was, a lot of people might not remember, but Malenko, especially here in the Carolinas, was one of the greatest heels ever in the business. I mean, Riots, and I mean, he was a great heel. And then Bob Orton Jr., Bob Roode, Randy Savage, I mean, Ronnie Garvin, these guys, I mean, if I was going to learn, if I was going to make it, I was going to learn from these guys. I mean, you'd have had to been an idiot not to have picked up, But no, nobody really helped me. As a matter of fact, I was never allowed to speak, and you'd have to go in the dressing room, and sit in the corner with your back with your face to the wall and your back to them, and I didn't speak unless I was spoken to. They'd beat me up.
So what would you consider your first big break?
First big break. Well, I was just your normal, average, nice-looking baby face with dark hair from 79 to 80, end of 82. And then Tom Ernesto Sr. called me and asked me if I'd bleach my hair and come to Puerto Rico and be a heel. So I told him I'd dye it green. I didn't care. I just wanted to make some money. And so I think that was I think that was the turning point. Of course, I was a fish out of water because I'd never been a heel before. And here I am in Puerto Rico, no man's land, and it's very dangerous over there. And but I don't know, I was just a natural, man. Flair and Piper used to come over and do the big shows. Flair used to love to watch me out there. He used to tell me he used to love to watch me because I'd struggle, man. I'd just fight. I'd just fight. There was another Puerto Rican that I had to wrestle. His name was El Gran Apollo, and it was just a constant fight. Flair used to laugh at me a lot.
So I mean, we've all seen him on the tapes and stuff, but what is that Puerto Rico crowd really like?
Brother, it's bad. It was real bad. Back then, it was real bad. Puerto Rico went down when Brody got killed, Bruiser Brody. I was there when Bruiser Brody got killed. It was an anniversary show. But prior to Bruiser Brody's death, there was great houses. Guys were making money. Big talent was coming in. And, they used to have to come and take a gun and shoot it off in the air just to disperse the crowd. They had like military police over there. They had the fatigues, the long batons. And it was bad. It was brutal, man. It's brutal. People throw stuff at you, get your tires cut, shot at.
But the pay was worth it, huh?
Well, hell, I ain't saying that. It's never enough. But there again, it's with the times. At the time, it was good money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 37 now. I don't know if I'd look at it as good money now.
When's the last time you were back in Puerto Rico?
Right after my knee surgery, I think my doctor released me in October of '96. I believe November of '96.
Mm-hmm. So you were actually there the weekend that all that went down with Brody.
Yeah, I was there.
Well, what's your impressions?
Well, I had lunch with him. I had a late dinner with him, a late lunch, early dinner, whatever. About 5 o'clock we were eating. We had a big show. And when I say big show, they got, baseball's real big there. They've got Hiram Bithram. It's a big baseball stadium. They got Roberto Clemente. They got Bayamon. And we sold out. We had about 60, 70, 80,000 people. Closed circuit. There's two buildings right next door to each other. The Coliseum, the baseball stadium. Sold both of them out. Some guys were wrestling at that place, some at this, and they would just alternate. This guy, when we'd wrestle over here, they'd have closed circuit over here. And so we sold both places out. And I had dinner with him. And one of the office guys come in and told him, you need to come to the office and do your taxes. We used to have to pay our taxes before we left the island. It's really a really screwy deal. Mm-hmm. He says, tell them I said to go screw themselves. I was a heel, he was a baby face. I was another dressing room. But the doctor came in and told us Brody hit his head. And then a little while later, he came in, the doctor, Gonzalez did, and said that somebody had stabbed Brody. And then he came back in and said that the promoter had stabbed and killed him. Well, we didn't know he was dead yet. They took him. Brody used to take a handful of aspirins. Take a lot of aspirins to thin his blood out, so when he got juice, it'd flow, you know. So in all actuality, I guess he killed his, he contributed to his own death because he'd taken a lot of aspirins. When he got stabbed, punctured his lung, and when you puncture your lung, they only give you like a 20% chance to live anyway. Mm-hmm. So he was had a knife stab wound, but there was bubbles coming out of his lung. So the doctor said only 20% chance. But anyway, by the time that the ambulance got through all the 60, 70,000 people, it took 45 minutes for the ambulance to get there. It took like another hour to get him to the hospital, and he just bled to death.
Were you ever contacted about part of the investigation that they did?
No,
I know there wasn't much of one.
I didn't have any information. That was real screwy too, man. I heard there was money paid under the table. It was a real bad deal, man. We left. We had a meeting the next day. I was coming out of the Panama Hotel, and Dutch Landell was coming back from the hotel where Brody was staying. Abdullah was staying at, and I said, "How's Frank doing?" He goes, "He died, man." I said, "No, bullshit, man." He goes, "I swear to God, he's dead." So we had a meeting that morning. We sold out that night, and that day, when I found out Brody died, we were supposed to be in Maguez, and it was sold out. So I told all the guys, I said, "Look," I said, "I ain't going." I said, "I'm getting the hell off this island, man." See, because back when I very first went, I mean, I had my life threatened. I mean, they pulled guns on me and was circling my hotel, and it was a bad deal because, hell, over there, they're politically tied up, and they can kill you and get away with it. Mm-hmm. Years later, it come to fruition. I mean, it come to pass. And so I told the guys, I'm leaving, man. I'm getting on a plane. I'm going home. To hell with this. If they kill Brody, what are they going to do to me? So I'll never forget it, man. Me and Abdullah, and then Sika, the Samoan, started drinking the rum. God dang, he was drunk. So me and Sika and Dutch Mantell, we go get in the cab. Sika's drunker than hell, and the cab driver wants to charge Sika, the Samoan, 50 cents per bag extra to take us to the airport. Brother grabs him by the throat, cussing him. It was a bad deal, but we got off the island, man. Some of those guys, Dutch Mantell, Tony Atlas, the Unbloods, they had to testify. It was bad.
And that was 1983? I forgot that. No, that was 90.
I believe that was 80. I believe Frank got killed in 89.
Yeah, that's right. How many years was it until you went back to Puerto Rico after that incident?
Went back to WCW in 1991. Probably 92, 93. Probably 3 or 4 years. 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
Jumping back and moving off Brody. So you wrestled in Puerto Rico as a heel back in the early '80s, and then you went and worked again in Tennessee. You went to was working for Jarrett.
Yeah.
What made you leave Puerto Rico and do there, or were you just doing both areas at the same time?
You leave Puerto Rico. Look, you go over to Puerto Rico and you make good money, and when they start screwing with your money, you know it's time to leave. And only the guys that's been there can appreciate that statement. Every time somebody leaves Puerto Rico, it's they don't like to give you a notice. They just start screwing with your money. $100 here, $5, just little stuff. And so it's time to leave. It was just time to leave. Mm-hmm. I left in '83 the first time because they threatened to kill me. The office promoters, yeah. They had guns outside my apartment, circling.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the
circling
family.
like Grant and Richmond, man. I'm telling you, it was bad. It's bad. I'm telling you, it was real bad. people always laughed at me, and they didn't laugh. I mean, I told people how bad it was over there, and they just laughed. And hell, when they killed Brody, they know. Hey, the promoter, man, walked all the way across through all the marks, man. They walked all the way across them, right, from Guaynabo. I was cocky, man. I was 21, 22 years old. I had 3 belts. I was a North American champion, North American tag team, and a Caribbean tag team champion, right? So I said, these guys need me. And I told them, I said, tell them I ain't going to do that tonight or something. They gave me a finish. I said, no, tell them I, by God, don't feel like doing that tonight. The promoter, Carlos Colon, the owner, come all the way through the marks. Big baby face, head top baby face, comes all the way through the marks, comes right in our dressing room and says, I'll kill you.
Does Cologne say this?
Yeah, right to my face. Says, I'll have you killed. You won't leave this, you'll leave this island in a body bag. So, all right.
So you knew it was time to get out of Puerto Rico.
It's time to scoot.
And so you went back to Tennessee for a brief time and worked for Jared.
Yeah.
What are your memories of that? Because you weren't there too long.
Well, that's a very interesting story. I went back there and was doing great. I mean, doing really well. And then Larry Mazik was a promoter in St. Louis that was promoted for the WWF in later years. But he was offering me and Tully Blanchard and Eddie Mansfield, Randy Savage, a bunch of us were going up to St. Louis. And Buck Robley was booking it. And then Jerry Jarrett was coming and offering me more money. Now at this time I still wasn't smart to the mind games guys was playing. You know, I should have stayed in Memphis and made, because Jarrett was offering me like $1,000 a week in '83, and I mean that was a lot of money for a small territory. You know, I mean, guys in Charlotte back in the mid '70s were making $7,000-8,000 a week, but I mean, for Memphis that was really good money. And a lot of the older guys were saying, "Man, screw them, man. They're screwing you around. You need to leave, man. You need to go up there." Well, they were trying to get rid of me, and I didn't know it. I thought they were my friends. You know. And
who are these people? Can you snag them?
Yeah, it was Roger Smith, guy that I broke in with back in Knoxville. He was the assassin. Dirty Rhodes, the assassin, Roger Smith. But anyway, yeah, a few of the other guys were telling me, I can't remember who else, just his name comes to mind, and he says, "Man, they're screwing you around, you need to go, man." Right? And I knew I should have stayed because Jerry Jarrett had bought a limousine, and he drove the limousine all the way from Nashville to Evansville, Indiana, just to come and see me, and made me the final $1,000 final offer. And I said, "No, I believe I'm going to go." Fuck, what a stupid mistake. So I went up to Kansas City, just doing shots back and forth, and Dory Funk was booking Charlotte at that time. Dory called and wanted me to come in. By this time, I'd already worked for Bill Watts a couple of times. I really liked Bill Watts because he was like a football coach. I mean, he was real demanding, but I learned a lot. So right before I left Memphis in '83, Bill Watson came up and asked Jerry Jarrett if he could have some talent to bring down to Mid-South. Well, before this, Mid-South had only had big guys, Junkyard Dog, Bill Irwin, Dick Murdoch. I mean, the bigger men, and Kamal and things like that. And they'd never seen a little guy there, little one. So they had little guys there, but never in a position to draw money, to be a major factor in drawing money. So Bill Watts comes up, and Jerry Jarrett, like an idiot, takes him in the dressing room. Well, Watts rapes the whole territory. He takes Jimmy Cornette, Bobby Eaton, Dennis Condrey, me, Bill Dundee is the booker, bunch of us. And we all went down to Mid-South in 80, this is turning into 84 now.
Mm-hmm.
But I always liked working in Memphis back when it was a territory. It stopped getting good in 86.
Yeah. So you said Bill Watts was one of your favorite promoters to work for. I know that you said some nice things about him.
Yeah, I think the
In other
world.
interviews.
Yeah, I think the world of him. He's a fine man.
He had quite a reputation about running his shows and having things his way.
Brother, he'd beat you up, man.
Yeah.
Fine you. I hold the record of getting fined in one territory, man. I mean, I got fined like $500 a week, something. I walk out of the shower one day, man. I mean, trouble followed me, and I don't know. I mean, I was innocent a lot of the times. I get out of the shower one day. I'm singing in the Centralplex in Baton Rouge, and I come out, and there's a woman standing in the dressing room, butt naked. What are you doing? But Grizzly Smith comes in, $500. And somebody had gave me, coming back from the ring, somebody gave me a big old thing of a Jack Daniels. I don't even drink liquor, you know. And I just set it on the thing there. Grizzly Smith walked in and goes, that drink's going to cost you $500. So the seal's not even broke on it. But anyway, that's just the way that territory was. You had to be there on time, no excuses. If there was a tornado, by God, you better have left early enough to miss the tornado. Snow, well, you should have left a week early. No excuses. And no excuses. You worked hard. I mean, like nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, you worked with a separated shoulder or busted knees. I mean, you know, you just worked.
Yeah.
Didn't miss it.
So this is leading up. You went from Watts. Is this the first run that you had with the NWA after working for Watts?
Excuse me.
The NWA? I'm trying to find. Where did you go after Watts? You were working with Mid-South? Your next stop?
84 would have been 80. February the 4th, 85, Arn Anderson and myself started here with Crockett.
Okay. So,
but I'd worked here before. I'd worked for Crockett in 81 and 82. I worked here in 81 and 82 for Crockett. Just as an underneath baby face.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to write home about.
So when you came back, what kind of position were you with? Because Crockett was still
We're in
running.
85?
Yeah.
Oh man, I was 23 years old.
That's when you.
Yeah,
started.
that was it. That was it.
So we're already at the Ric Flair.
Well, you know, the funny thing about it is that Flair and I never did anything to have an angle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just walked out and said, I'm the nature boy. He said, I'm the nature boy. And I beat up everybody. You know, I'm from Ronnie Garvin to Magnum on down. I beat everybody. Mm-hmm. Flair was already over. And it was just natural. They just put us together. We never went out and shot an angle. I never ran in on him. We never did anything other than saying, you know, what I just told you, I'm the nature boy. And that's how strong it was. You know, we couldn't have done any more business. We never worked a show that wasn't sold out. We drew the largest house in Crockett history, 50 years of history, from 45 to 85. Raleigh Dorton Arena, Raleigh, North Carolina, broke Elvis Presley's attendance record.
Well, a lot of people don't know that you were in a position to take the strap.
Yeah.
You wanna share with that story?
Yeah, Flair's. Well, I had proved myself that I could be a main event, draw money, and by that time, back I guess 84, I'd started doing cocaine, and but back, you know, it was just recreational back then. Nobody was hooked. Nobody had a problem. Of course, we did it every day, but I mean, in '84 we was doing 100,000 miles a year. I mean, we did 100,000 miles in 1984, and there's no interstates in Louisiana except for 10 at the bottom and 40 at the top. Anything in between, there's just all back roads, and we did 100,000 miles back roads. We didn't get any sleep. Watts was pressuring us to perform, you know, and so anyway, I carried that problem over to 1985 to Charlotte. And then I started making all kinds of money. And Flair and I were selling out. Flair's wife had a miscarriage. He was going to take 4 months off. And they were going to shoot an angle to put JJ with Tully Blanchard and Baby Doll with me. And then I was going to beat Flair for the belt. And then I was going to work a program with Tully and beat him. Then I was going to work a program with Magnum and beat him. Then Flair would come back, and then Flair would beat me, get the belt back. But the day they were shooting the angle, I was a national heavyweight champion, just won that belt at Starrcade, and had an airplane ticket to fly from Charlotte to Atlanta. I said, screw that, man. I'm going to drive and do my drugs, man. So me and another guy was driving and got to the hotel about probably 5 in the morning. And I was just, up and wired from doing the coke. And so I took a bunch of Valiums to go to sleep. And so Black Bart was with me, and come time for TV, Bart says, buddy, come on, we got to go do TV. I said, screw TV, man, I ain't going today. This is the day they're shooting the angle to make me the world champion. I said, screw it, I ain't going, man. He goes, buddy, come on, give me your car keys. I said, here, take the car keys. So about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, the phone rings in the hotel. Rang forever. I got up and answered it, and it's Dusty. Get your ass down here to TV, man. We're doing this thing. I said, screw it, man. I said, I'm sleeping, and I hung up on him. Thank you. Oh, what can I do now but laugh or cry? And looking back on it. So Crockett calls. Dusty calls twice. Crockett calls once. I told Crockett, I said, look, I'll be in when I get ready. And I hung up on him. So when I finally got to TV that day, about 12, Dusty walked up to me and said, give me your belt. You ain't got a job no more. I said, okay. I had money in the bank. I didn't, wasn't thinking. And that's how that's that story.
Was drug use just all over the place in the locker room at that time?
Well, there were several guys. But I had an addictive personality, man. I mean, there was guys, and I respected them because they could do a little bit. They could buy a lot and do a little bit and go home to their family and eat and go to bed. Get up, go to the gym, do a little bit more and go wrestle that night, do a little bit more, then go home, go to bed. I couldn't do that. Not me. I had to have a half ounce all the time. I had to do it till it was through, and no, I didn't go home. My poor wife, God love her. I never went home. People were going, buddy, go home, please, go home. I will. If I had a brand new car, I'd drive the streets of Charlotte, man, doing my cocaine. Just, it's pretty. It was neat at the time, but I didn't realize I was just in a tailspin. I mean, I was out of control.
Just too much money for a 23-year-old?
Yeah, because I grew up, I didn't have nothing. I mean, I come here and built a home and bought another home and had 4 new cars. Had a Rolls Royce. I had everything. Didn't I? I mean, I had everything I had anything that I wanted, That was a bad thing in this territory, around Flair and Steamboat and all those guys. It was just keeping up with the Joneses. You know what I mean? Crockett's deal was, get that guy hooked on buying a new car, man. Talk him into buying a new house. That was their big deal. Because you get a guy to buy a $200,000 home back then, and hell, he's got to work. He can't leave. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was Crockett's mentality. He knew that I was in deep. My monthly nut was pretty large for any age, or for any income bracket, And Crockett knew he had me by the huevos. So.
I know the money's not anything like it is today for the stars and stuff. But can you tell us what the most you ever made in a year was? The only reason I ask this is because Ricky Morton admitted when he made his best year.
Probably $250.
$250. And today that's nothing for the guys that are in your position.
No, see, a lot of people don't know this, but this is the honest to God truth. Sting got my place. After they fired me here, I went to Memphis to dry out. Then they called me back in '86 to come to work here. Then Crockett started screwing with my money, and Sting. I'd met Sting and the Warrior. They were the Blade Runners in Memphis in '86, and so I went from Memphis back here to NWA, and Crockett started screwing with my money, and I said, screw it. I quit on an $1,850 a week. I told him, I said, stick his company up your ass, man. So I'm going to write a book, Life Without Crockett, Prospering. And so from there, I went to build back to Mid-South, and Watt signed me to a $200,000 contract in '86. Now this is when Sting, Eddie Gilbert, Rick Steiner, Missy Hyatt, and all them were making $50 grand a year. I was making $200. So that shows you the talent level there. Well, they took Sting and brought him over to NWA to take my place. So I'm not saying that I could have been to the level where Sting has been or where he took it to. I'm just saying, me being a jack-off, I afforded him the opportunity to, there was an open door. Man, my place was sewed up, man. I was politically tied up in this business with Dusty and Flair and Crockett and all of them. And I mean, they just, God love them, man. And I regret it. I hate what I did to them because they believed in me so much, and JJ especially. But they had to get somebody. They couldn't keep on dealing with my shenanigans, man. So they brought Sting in. That's how Sting got his spot, and he's been there ever since.
Do you have any contact? You're saying you're tied up, but do you have any contact with Dusty Rhodes or Ric Flair since then? Has there been any
Last time I saw Dusty, it's when he fired me in 1991 from WCW. I haven't talked to Flair in 7 years. I saw Crockett. He tried to open up the NWA in Dallas. And I saw JJ at the WWF in '95.
Well, when you went through the period of drying out, is that when you were teaming him with Bill Dundee in Memphis?
Well, that's what they called it.
Is that what?
I wasn't drying out. I mean, I was just, I didn't dry out.
Yeah. Well, I know there were a lot of positive memories that whole era. With you and Dundee teaming up and things like the
Bill and Buddy show.
And seemed like you're having
all the
fun.
accolades and everything I've done in my career. Seems like everybody always talks about the Bill and Buddy show. I was so tore up in my mind. I don't remember being out there. I mean, that's how wasted I was, man. Seriously.
Yeah.
See, because in Memphis, I'd hooked up with a guy that was one of the biggest cocaine dealers in the country, man. I mean, this guy got busted right after I left. He got busted with 33 kilos. And so, I mean, it wasn't a drawn out period for me. It was just one of those slaps on the wrist deals,
Well, what are your memories of Jerry Lawler and Dundee, and because you worked with them all?
I think Jerry Lawler is one of the most talented people I've ever been around. The guys that, if you never mind wrestling, I mean, the guy's just a great artist. I mean, he can airbrush, paint, sketch, draw. He's a phenomenal talent. God bless that man with overtime. He's super talented. Dundee was all right back then. He's a little prick right now. Little asshole. He is. He's out for number one. He just, he knocks everybody. It's just like, it's one of those things where a guy's made a lot of money, been on top, and don't want to let go. He's just going to milk this damn thing till the cow comes home. I believe there's a point in time to where, you just got to walk away. You just got to walk away. like Hogan did. I respect that. Flair, I'm sure Flair's a bitter, angry person, man. He spent most of his money. You know, now he'll be 50 in a couple of months. And I mean, he just wants to be like a teenager. He wants to be on top. Their days are gone. You know, they're gone. But people want to hold on to the past and they become bitter and angry. You know, Flair, I love Flair. He's a friend of mine. And I respect him. I think he is the greatest that's ever been in this business, personally. I do. You know, but when I hear him piss and whine and moan about, you know, how Eric Bischoff's done him wrong and how WCW's done him wrong, hell, he never missed a payday. You know, he never missed a payday. Now, how are you going to feel sorry for somebody that's making 20 grand a week? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. How do you have sympathy for a guy that's making 20 damn grand a week? I don't want to hear he's pissing and moaning, man. I ain't got time for it. Yeah. I'm trying to feed my family, and he's whining about making 20 grand a week.
So there was a time where you weren't in the spotlight of the NWA on national television and stuff, and I know you worked for USWA and you did a lot of independent work, and then you ended up, I guess, getting another chance with Smoky Mountain Wrestling and Jim Cornette.
Well, prior to that, I'd spent from 87 to 1990, I'd spent on the independent circuit. Mm-hmm. Well, Ole Anderson calls me back up to come into the WCW. So I'm thinking, this is going to be great. I'm going to go right back on top. And this is along the same lines of what I was telling you about with Flair, okay? Now, when I left in 85, I mean, there wasn't nobody any over than I was. I mean, I was great, man. I mean, I was there on top, making money, the whole 9 yards. In my mind, 1990 is going to be just like 85. Well, it's only been 5 years, you know. I'm only 29 years old. I'm still young. It wasn't like that, man. I was a job guy. Me and Bobby Eaton and Ricky Morton and Terry Taylor, four of the probably the most talented guys that's ever been in this business. And we're putting guys over that, you know, puts their jock strap on the outside of their underwear. You know, hell, it was just different. It was a different game, different era, man. It was a rude awakening. I mean, it was hard. Then I said, no, to hell with it. I said, I'll just prostitute myself out and get beat by whoever they want me to get beat by, get my money, get my $2,100 every week, and go home. Mm-hmm. That's what I did. It's what Ricky did. It's what Bobby did. It's what all of us did.
Why do you think you guys were in that position? Do you think it was a lack of trust, in your case at least, lack of trust?
Because they brought this asshole in named Jim Hurd that was, the most he'd ever done in his life was run a Pizza Hut. You want to hear this damn story, man? Here's one of the Ted Turner's right-hand man. His wife gets her hair done with this other woman. Well, this other woman, her husband's looking for a job. Turner's right-hand man's wife goes, well, why don't you have him come out and fill out an application for the wrestling thing? They're looking for somebody. The damn guy's never done nothing but run Pizza Huts. So here you go. That was a nail in the coffin for WCW, man. They brought this Pizza Hut guy in to run World Championship Wrestling. He didn't give a shit about Buddy Landell, Bobby Eaton. He didn't care if we were good workers or not. He wanted the Lex Lugers, the Tom Zink. He wanted these guys that looked like $1 million, $10 million body, and a 5-cent brain. That's what he wanted. Mm-hmm. And that's why he ain't there anymore. That started to, but you got to understand, man, anytime, you know, these guys on TV, you take TV and you have the people develop a mindset. I mean, you can control the people's minds through television, you know. Well, once they started doing this, they got the ball rolling, man. They didn't want to see the Ric Flair and steamboats. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Hell, Jim Hurd wanted Flair to cut his hair and call himself Spartacus. I swear to God. Well, that's why Flair cut his hair off short in the early 90s. He says, I don't want to hear Nature Boy no more. He goes, I don't care Ric Flair, this, that, or the other. He goes, you're going to be Spartacus, Ric Flair. Swear to God, man, that's a true story. So I knew when he did that to Flair, I knew I was screwed. I knew I was screwed, blue, tattooed and dick by the ding dong of destiny, brother. I was screwed. So I just collected my money, went home. Yep.
Well, after that fiasco, coincidentally, that was their worst. I think that was their worst period in probably 15 years in terms of.
Ray Charles could see that.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you worked some independents.
Did some independents, yeah. See, anytime you're on WCW for a while, your stock goes up on the independent market, you know. So I was doing the independents for a few years, and then by that time I started going to church. Got my life straightened up, and
So the cocaine continued all the way through when you left.
yeah. And then by the time that I got to Smoky Mountain, I was totally clean. I was totally turned my life around. So Jimmy Cornette is one of my best friends in the whole world, and he gave me an opportunity. Well, I helped start Smoky Mountain. Well, I don't mean to say I helped start it. I mean, I was there at the initial TV, right? Then my house in Florida got broke into, and I think the insurance gave me like $35 grand or something for all the stuff I had stolen and stuff. We moved back to Tennessee. So I had, anytime I got just a little bit of money in the bank, I'm a little hard to deal with, you know what I'm saying? It's like somebody going, man, I got to go to rehab. How much is rehab? 14 grand. Well, if you got 14 grand, you ain't got a problem. That's a little joke there. Yeah. Sam Kinison joke. Anyway, so I had some money in the bank, and me and Cornette got into a little argument. I said, well, screw it. I'm going home. And so here I am sitting in Knoxville, no money coming in, just living off what I've saved. And that was hard because Jimmy and I were really close. And that was my fault, man. I mean, they had an I Quit match with me and Tim Horner. I got hot at Cornette a little bit because he brought, starting Smoky Mountain. And he had that guy, that Rick Rubin, or whatever his name is, that record producer
yeah.
with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Mm-hmm. I think Madonna maybe too. He put in several $1 million into this Smoky Mountain thing. He had him on a 5-year plan. The projection was supposed to be, at the end of the 5 years, it becomes self-sufficient. Well, we were almost self-sufficient, but with Vince and Turner going in and getting a checkbook out and writing TVs, it was really hard to compete with that. But we did okay for a local. But it was hard sitting back at that time, seeing them guys going and wrestling. It's in my hometown. It was really depressing. But I'm rambling on here.
No, you were saying something about the I Quit match.
Yeah, me and Tim. I got a little upset at Cornette because Cornette brought, had Tim Horner in. Now Tim Horner, God love him, but I mean, at best, he's a mid-carder. He's not a main event guy. He's never been a main event guy. So here we have a tournament for the Smoky Mountain Belt in Knoxville, Tennessee at the Coliseum, and Horner beats me, Paul Orndorff, and the Dirty White Boy. I said, that's it. You're screwed, Jimmy. Why? I said, ain't nobody going to believe Tim Horner going to beat all of us, not in one night. Forget it. And they just shoved and shoved and shoved Tim Horner down everybody's throat. So we had an I Quit match, and I was in one of my rare forms, man. And so Tim Horner gets me, and the referee's carrying the microphone around the ring, and Tim Horner gets me, I think gets me a hammerlock or something, and they say, do you quit? Do you give up? I went, Moon River, water. And the next time he gets me in a hold or something, and the referee comes up and says, do you quit? I went, man, you need a shot of scope, brother. And the next time I said, what about them Sixers? So I got the heat on Horner, got the microphone away from the referee, and I tied Horner up, and I was beating it on Horner's head, and I went, bring, bring. I'm sorry, Timmy can't come to the phone right now. He seems to be all tied up. If you'll leave your name and number, he'll get back with you as soon as possible. Thank you very much. Love you. Don't ever change. Bye. And Cornette got hotter than hell at me, man. He took him like $3,000 to edit all that stuff out. Just to have, because he was selling the tapes.
Yeah.
He got blistering mad at me, man. So we had a party in other ways.
So all that stuff never made it on the official tape.
No, no. It was classic.
Yeah, right. That's right. Sounds like it.
A classic guy.
Certainly are. Okay, so you can you make a living at that time working on the Independents?
Yeah, I've never had another job.
Yeah.
This is all I've ever done.
Since you're junior in high school, huh?
Yep.
So you worked briefly with USWA, which I don't know if you were was at that time where was Smoky Mountain Wrestling and USWA working together?
No.
Over there?
No, you're talking about 1994 when I beat Jarrett for the heavyweight belt?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that was prior to that. That was a year earlier.
Okay. So lead us through about this time period. You left
Uh-huh.
Smoky Mountain Wrestling after having a squabble with Cornette, and you worked some more independents for a
Yeah,
while?
did some independents. About 3 years. Let's see. With Smoky Mountain started in 92. About 3 years I did independents.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cornette called me back in December of 94.
Mm-hmm.
I started back with
So you were there the last year of the company.
Huh?
You were there the entire last year of the
Yeah.
company.
Yeah, I was his assistant booker.
Mm-hmm. So,
Of course, Ricky said he was.
so it was nice probably wrestling. You were living in Knoxville, right?
One boss and the rest of everybody else was assistant booker. Do what now?
You were living in Knoxville still at this time, so it was like working.
Yeah, it was great, man. It was great.
And why do you think Smoky Mountain Wrestling ended? It did really well there for 4 or 5 years.
Well, because we had about a $40,000 nut a month. $40,000. That's a lot of money, man.
Yeah.
$500,000 a year. It's a lot of money.
Yeah. It's hard to compete.
Our TVs were about $5,000 a week, just in television. You know, and then you've got the talent, lighting, production. It was tough. And then I saw some things Cornette did. That you know, of course, we would all do things different. You know what I'm saying? What I would do, he wouldn't do. What he did, I might not have done. You know.
Anything major coming to mind when you're saying that?
Huh?
Anything major coming to mind?
No, I think it was a thing. Jimmy was having burnout. I mean, anytime you're in a position like Dusty Rhodes was in the early '80s, mid '80s, Ole Anderson, Jimmy Cornette. I mean, there's that high wire you walk, man. I mean, it was just burnout. Jimmy was tired. By this time, Jimmy was working with WWF, and his time at home was slim, and he was just burnt out. But see, I knew several months prior that we were closing. Nobody else knew. Me and Cornette. Mm-hmm. And Jimmy, I'd already had a starting date in New York with WWF. Cornette was taking me up there with him. I mean, he didn't take anybody else. Well, he was Tom Pritchard and Jimmy Del Rey. They were already there.
Right.
But when he closed down, I was the only one he took with him.
Do you think a lot of the wrestlers working for him had the mentality that he sold out to the WWF, or did they realize it was coming?
Yeah, but I mean, they were on, like the Dirty White Boy, Tony Anthony. I went to high school with him, and he's an asshole too. He, you know, he was going, man, we could have kept this thing. I had an investor that was going to give Cornette $100,000 just right up front, hand it to him, a millionaire from Kentucky, or a coal miner. And Cornette says, you know, I just don't want to. I'm just tired, man. So everybody else was wanting him to stay, but it was for selfish reasons, and they just wanted a damn job. And by that time, it was hard to get a job. You know, Jimmy was my friend. I mean, I was losing money too, but I said, Jimmy, you can't keep going like this, man. You just can't keep going like this. It ain't right. I mean, you know. So.
Well, one thing I know a lot of people remember is the match with Shawn Michaels.
Right.
They brought in some of the WWF guys.
Right.
You guys put on a fantastic match.
Yeah, that was. I have to say that was probably what was so unique about that is by this time everybody was going up and they didn't care who you were, what your name was, what you'd done. They wanted you to have a tryout match. And a lot of guys were pissing and moaning because they, about a tryout match. But I was saying, hey, look, if that's what I've got to do, I'm not afraid. My workability. I know if they want to see me work, I said I'll go do a tryout match. I don't give a crap. I said I can do it. Now, if you're worried about it, go learn how to work. Shawn Michaels agreed to come down and have my tryout match with me in my hometown. You see, he didn't have to do that. Shawn Michaels didn't have to come to Knoxville, Tennessee to wrestle me, but he did. And I'm glad he did. And it was a big turning point in my career.
So you didn't start with the WWF immediately, but I know that you were in a position where you went after Smoky Mountain Wrestling closed down and you had a shot in WWF, and then
I flew up, what happened was I flew up a day early. Vince flew me up a day early. And it was an In Your House, and it was in Hershey. It was at that place where Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points in one game, that Hershey building. In Hershey, Pennsylvania. And they had the ring set up, and it was really funny because all the guys up there get there at 1 o'clock, and the guys go over their 3-minute match. They'll go over it for 5 hours. It's a stumbling. I never in my whole career ever went over a match in the dressing room. Never. No, none of us guys did. These guys do. Because I'm sure they want to get it perfect, and they're nervous, and they got a lot of pressure on them. So I go in, and Shane Douglas says he's hurt and he can't work with Ahmed Johnson. This is an In Your House pay-per-view. And so they try to get 2 or 3 more guys to work with him, and it's just not gelling. And so I walk up to Bruce Pritchard. I said, look here, you want somebody to put big guy over in about 30 seconds? I'm your man. He said, will you do that? I said, hell yeah. So he says, let me go talk to Vince. He come back in just a few minutes. He goes, all right, you got it. We'll go put him over. So I went out there and put him over. And after I put him over, Vince walks up to me and says, I really appreciate you doing me that favor. He goes, you're going over Bob Holly tomorrow night on Monday Night Raw. Bro, that's unheard of, man. Bring a guy in and he winning on a Monday Night Raw like that ain't done too often unless they're going to really use the guy. Bob Holly did not want to put me over, raised all kinds of hell about it. And he told Jack Briscoe, I don't want to put him over, man. He goes, I've been here a long time, boom, boom, and all this stuff. I said, hey, brother. He says, no offense, buddy. I said, none taken. I said, you do what you're going to do. So anyway, he had to put me over. But when we got in the ring, man, it was a fight. It was a real fight. He didn't want to put me over. And then I had 2 more matches. I kicked the shit out of that Hardy boy. I beat him up bad. They got all over me in the back. You didn't give that guy nothing. I said, well, I'm getting over. That's how I was taught. I'm getting over. So I beat the hell out of him. And then Bob Backlund didn't want to put Bret Hart over. He was the champion. And they asked me if I'd put Bret over. I said, under one condition. They go, what? I said, right in the middle. He's got to beat me right in the middle. So I went out and worked with Bret Hart. He beat me. And that night, coming back, I had my accident at the Hilton Hotel.
Yeah. Before we talk about the accident, so is it always been this bad about people fighting not to be put over, and why do you think people have such a hard time helping out another or giving up a spot?
I'm a businessman. That's all I am. I'm a businessman. Mm-hmm. Other guys have a problem with that. I don't know why. I've never been able to figure it out. It seems like the best guys, they can do those things and they can work themselves back. Yeah. If you've got the talent, it's like Elvis Presley. With the day he died, he never lost his voice. Mm-hmm. He still had the voice God gave him when he died, to the day he died. No matter what drug abuse he went through, how much weight he had gained or anything. So if you've got the talent's always going to be there.
But it's a serious problem in terms of everybody fighting to not look bad on TV.
Well, see, back, and this is what I liked about Watts. When you went in for Watts, you knew where you were going to be at. He told you on the phone coming in, mm-hmm. Look, you're going to be in the middle of the card. You're going to be here for 8 months. Going to get a little bit more experience, and you're going to leave. So you knew going in, there wasn't no use raising no hell or trying to stab somebody in the back or trying to hurt somebody. because you knew that you wasn't getting no higher up on the card. That's all you was going to be. Used to be that way. Now there's guys that get hurt. Hell, nowadays a guy can have a hangnail and not go to TV and make his check every week. Milk it. I don't know.
Why do you think promoters put up with it? As Bill Watts.
It's corporate now, man. It's corporate America. It's the way it is, man. It's the way it is in the NFL or anything else. You have a separated finger, you're out.
So you were in a spot with the WWF, and then you had a little slip and fall accident.
So that's the attorney coming
Yeah.
at you. You know what? I would rather not discuss that.
Okay.
I mean, we can discuss a lot of it. The actual.
No, I just wanted to discuss.
What
You
happened
say
is-
that you were in a position to start again in the company, and you had the unfortunate accident.
Vince even wrote a note to my attorney stating that he was going to sign me for $150,000 for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's what my talent at that time was worth to him.
Right.
Yeah. And then I had the accident at the Hilton Hotel, and then I was out for about 9 months. Laid up.
Did you have a surgery during that time on your quad?
Yeah, tore my quad in half.
Mm-hmm. And why is it that after you come back from an injury like that, why you don't think the offer was there again from the WWF?
Things change every day. I mean, now they break the segments down in 15-minute increments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they know exactly if you're over or you're not over. And everything's instant gratification now. And I think those 9 months being out, it's just, I guess I just didn't fit into what they were, I've never really, to be honest with you, I've never really pursued it. I've never really been persistent, knocking on the door and calling and calling and calling. I've never asked Jimmy Cornette for a favor because he's one of my best friends, and I've never prostituted our relationship by saying, Jimmy, can you help get me a job? Mm-hmm. When he calls me up, like he called me on Thanksgiving, we talk all the time. And, it's easy for him to talk to me or call me or to take a phone call from me or to return a call because he knows it's never about wrestling. It's escapism, man. You can talk to a real friend without, he has so many people hitting him up. But I think, getting back to what you was asking, I think I just, I don't know. I really don't know. I haven't pursued it. Now, I had a meeting a year ago, December the 3rd, with Bischoff. Everybody in the world that knows anything, that's smart about the business at all knows that I could go back and work with Flair again, and it would work so good if Bischoff brought me in and to insult Flair and all that. Why hasn't it happened? I don't know. Still waiting on a phone call.
Yeah, but I mean,
will it happen? I pray every night and every day for it to happen.
That's what the rumors say.
Yeah. One phone call could change my life dramatically. I mean, you're talking about guys. I mean, if they did it, if everything worked out in my favor, I mean, you're talking about $1 million job in a few years, probably $1 million a year, 800, 500. I mean, one phone call.
Yeah. Well, you're saying that Cornette is a personal friend of yours. Is there anybody else in wrestling that you would rank up there?
Scott Putski and Jimmy Berkeley. I tell you, I've had very few people that stood by me. My friend Sharon here and her mother Jackie, a guy named Tom Gentry, Jimmy Berkeley. But Cornette, Scott Putski, I mean, listen, in this business you have associations. You don't have friends. Nobody's your friend. Nobody. Just ain't there. I mean, you have acquaintances that travel, you have a good time with and stuff, but it's not like pro sports. Like when listen, hell, the Junkyard Dog died, man. Hell, I go down to Wadesboro. I'm the only wrestler there. You know what I'm saying? The guy died with nobody. I was it. Out of all the guys that used to kiss his ass and ride up down the road and die to be on a card with him, or he died alone, man. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got shit. You got nothing. You got nobody. The people you got are your family. I've been married 18 years, and my wife's been and stood by me through it all, and believed in me, and still believes in me. Whether I ever go back to WCW or that, it used to bother me that, because I used to ask myself, will I ever measure up to what I used to be? Because obtaining success at such an early age, like I did, it's hard. It's hard, and I ask myself, will I ever measure up to what I used to be? And, now it doesn't bother me anymore, because I look at it like this. I always wanted to be a wrestler, and I got as high as you could. I did everything a man could do in this business. Nobody can ever take that away from me. And so I'll finish this life out being a trivia question. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, I'll always have that. Nobody can take away my success or the things that I've done. They can't discredit that. Bad decisions, yeah, I've made a bunch of them. If I had it to do over with again, would I do it different? Hell yeah, I'd do it different. But hindsight's 20/20. You can't go back.
Well, you admitted that you had a cocaine problem. At what point did you finally take control of it?
About 5 o'clock this morning? No.
No, from what I understand, you've been clean for a while.
Yeah, what it was, man? I never really liked it. Swear to God, I never. And there were a few things that happened to me. There was things that happened to me in my childhood, and what pisses me off is when I watch Oprah or one of these shows, somebody's copping out because they were molested or because they were beat or something happened bad. You know what I'm saying? I would no more repeat the abuse that was done to me on my kids than nothing in the world. I'm the greatest daddy. I really am. My kids are both cheerleaders, honor roll students. They're 11 and 13, and God's blessed me with a great family. I had an addictive personality. I couldn't do. I had to be great at everything. I had to have the best. I had to. I could do a little. I had to do it all. And so I don't use what happened. I think what happened to me as a child affected me. You know what I'm saying? But to be honest with you, I don't know. I probably would have done drugs and lived the life that I'd have lived if I was raised in a great Christian home. To be honest with you, I'm saying I think I would. I don't know. We're a product of our environment, and I don't know if that had any effect on that or not. But I've never used my childhood as a cop-out. I've never said, well, I was this and I was that. I've never done that. It probably affected me. And I don't talk about that a lot. But, I just don't think you don't have to repeat the cycle. Mm-hmm. And I just got to the point to where I didn't want my kids having a drunk and a drug addict for a father. I just didn't want that to happen.
So it was really just your personal life more than your professional life.
Yeah, I never craved cocaine. I never was like an addict. I was never an addict. I was never an alcoholic. I could drink all night, but I never was like, I can go 6 months without drinking, and then I'd drink. I am so complex. I don't understand myself. I really don't. I don't understand why I did. For some reason, I don't know. Brother back here is going to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Maybe he can help me one day. But for some reason in my life, every time that I've got to the point of success, I screw it up on purpose. I don't know. And I've never been afraid of failure. I think I'm afraid of success. And why, I have no idea. because I've never been a failure. I've always been successful at anything that I did, anything. And for some reason, success apparently scares me. I don't know why.
Well, briefly moving away from wrestling on the lighter subjects, you were recently in a movie.
Yeah.
Box of Midnight? Is that what?
Box of Moonlight.
Moonlight.
Yeah.
How did you get into
I played the role of Studley Hunwell. The night that I wrestled Shawn Michaels at the Coliseum, they were in town filming that movie, and there was the star of the movie was a big wrestling fan. His favorite wrestler was this character called Uncle Samson. So they came to the Coliseum that night, and they wanted to cast a wrestler. They had their choice with Shawn Michaels, and everybody, was there. They picked me. So I did it. 95, summer of 95, just on Cinemax the other night.
Yep.
First time I saw it, I didn't go to the premiere.
Oh, that was the first time you ever saw it?
First time I ever saw it. That's funnier than hell too. It's a good movie. It really is. It's fun. It's going to be one of those cult movies. It's going to be a cult film. But it was fun. I just never really cared about seeing myself on anything. I never watched tapes or.
So it didn't whet your appetite for a film career?
Well, yeah, man. I mean, I'd like to do it, but
It's just nothing you really pursued?
I just hadn't pursued it now. See, look, this is the way I'm really hoping to go back to WCW or WWF. The simple point of getting back out there. Now everybody remembers me, or the people that are true wrestling fans remember me and what I did. I mean, I always go out with a ponytail and a hat on. If I wanted to be noticed, I could blow dry my hair and go out and, cause a lot of attention. But I never really, I forgot what I was going to say, man. Man, what a pretty day. You feel the love in this room? This is great.
So people on camera don't see, you've been looking at the skyline of Charlotte now.
Skyline of Charlotte, man. Here's Greg Lloyd next door humping his girlfriend. The pictures are moving on the wall. What the hell is that about? Anyway, what was I talking about, man?
Wanted to go back to...
I don't mean to be like Farrah Fawcett on David Letterman. I swear I'm not on any drugs. I swear to God, I just hadn't had a lot of sleep. What was I talking about?
Hoping to go back to WCW.
Yeah, because you get it. It'll give you a platform, to propel yourself into film or like Tully the Ministry or something. I mean, a lot of people remember me and what I've done, but they'll remember me a lot more. The old saying, "Out of sight, out of mind."
Yeah.
Once you go back on TV's good for you. It puts you fresh into people's mind. Your stock goes up on the independent market.
Have you had any discussions at all since meeting up with Bischoff in December?
I've talked to him 2 or 3 times, yeah. Just waiting, man. Just waiting. You know what? It's going to happen when God wants it to happen, man. Mm-hmm. I just pray for His timing and His will. I know I'm going to have, I pray a lot. And God told me that I was going to get my job back. I don't know when it's going to happen. I think I've yet to see my finest day. I think the greatest thing that ever happened to me with Flair in '85 and all the money that I made then, I think that's just a shadow of what's going to happen. I really believe that I'm going to be very successful in this business again. It's going to blow a lot of people's minds.
I know you've been public about the recent trend in WWF programming. You might find it a little offensive, or
I don't let my kids watch it. I don't personally watch it myself. I don't. I very rarely, to be honest with you, I really feel like that I stand a better shot going to WCW than WWF. Mm-hmm. So therefore, I've been watching WCW. I've been watching that quite a bit just to get the storylines in case, hell, if they call you in, I mean, at least you know what's going on, But I've never made it a habit, I've never made it a habit to watch wrestling. I've just never, except for when I was a kid. After I got into the business, be like you coming home watching Perry Mason or something. Or Bob Vila coming home and, watching himself. It's never really cared about watching. But I like to stay up with what's going on, just in case they do call. I can go right back in. Another storyline.
Well, when you do watch your wrestling on TV, are there any people out there that really impress you today?
Well, I'll tell you what, I give Eric Bischoff a lot of credit because I think he opened the door to the cruiserweights, and I think that is exciting for the fans because they're not limited like the big guys of the moves they can do and stuff. And I think that I like the Eddie Guerrero. I like Malenko and Benoit. But you know what? Those little guys like the little Mexicans, man, that is like beans falling through the grill to me, man. I don't get into all that.
You're not into it at all?
No, because the way that I taught myself in this business is by watching is your mind. Your eyes are like a shutter lens on a camera. It goes frame by frame, And then that's the way I've always worked, frame by frame by frame. And that's the way your mind works. These bastards are out there doing 16 moves in 2 seconds. I mean, human mind can't even comprehend it, So I don't like that stuff. I think Scott Hall is a great worker. Kurt Hennig. I think Conan's a good worker too. I think Scott Steiner's improved a lot, especially in his interviews.
Mm-hmm.
He's real impressive. Got a body just like me too.
And I saw some old pictures.
Anyway,
I was gonna ask you if you did bodybuilding because I saw some pictures.
Yeah, I did. I tore my pec in '83 in Puerto Rico on a bench press contest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You had like a Lex Luger physique.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, what do you think were just your 3 greatest memories in wrestling?
3 greatest memories?
Mm-hmm.
I think the first one was when I bleached my hair in Puerto Rico. I was just used to seeing other guys get pushes. We take 6 TVs in one night. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. They bring you into Puerto Rico and they're going to put you over. You're on all 6 TVs. And it's a hot son of a bitch over there, brother. I mean, it's hot. And so I was working all 6 tapes and I was beating everybody up. And I asked Crazy Luke Graham, I said, do you think they're going to do anything with me here? He goes, man, you're green as goose shit. He goes, Ray Charles can see that. Go there where I was getting a push. I think that stands out in my mind because that's opened my eyes to, man, I think I've got what it takes to stay in this business for the long haul, make money. The second one would have to be the first time that I got in the ring with Ric Flair. And we were nose to nose. Well, nose to his eyes. What? He's 5'10". And so he was looking at me, I was looking at him, he's checking me out, I'm checking him. Everything he's doing, I'm doing back to him. So he grabs my tricep and just, man, that's pretty good. I grabbed his and I went, man, that's pretty good. He slaps the shit out of me. I mean, hard. Right in the mush. I think that's when I said, well, screw him, man. He ain't be, we're going to fight. Mm-hmm. That memory stands out. And I think probably the Shawn Michaels match. The Shawn Michaels, for the simple fact that a guy can be on top and fall from grace and be in a tailspin. catch himself and come back and achieve that, because that was the biggest house in Smoky Mountain history. So those three memories.
Okay, folks. No, you ain't imagining things. This is Buddy Landell and Bill Superstar Dundee. And we fired Lance Russell and Dave Brown. Get out of here, baby. Look at your seat, Budrow. What's next? We got a little thing here. What does it say now, Budrow?
It says the Lawler video spot.
The Lawler. Oh, no. We ain't doing that. That's out. That's out. We're just scribble that out, Budrow. We ain't doing that. That ain't
We'll
really
just let
done.
him look at our pretty pictures
Okay.
for a while.
Now we got a match coming on up here because we ain't doing no spot for Jerry Lawler. I'll tell you.
Says it on the format that we got to run it. We got to run it. We have to.
Well, okay, folks, in TV land, if you're going to go make a cup of coffee, if you got to go to the little boys' little girls' room, or you just got to take a nap, this is the perfect time to do it, because the guy upstairs is going to run it anyway, so go ahead.
I hope Jerry Lawler gives out no-dos when he sells them things.
I rung the bell. I'll be deaf. We ring it again. Come on, Lawler. We ain't going to punch you up. Come on. Get out of here, Lawler. There we go now. Well, I don't know here.
Look at them scars all over their head from Monday night where we beat them half to death, baby.
Just you got enough with the Rose Brothers in there. We sold your stinking video, so don't worry about it. Okay, folks, here we come with a little wrestling match. As you can tell in the ring now, it's Pat and Bill Rose versus Jerry the King Lawler, and I say that very loosely, and Dirty Dutch Mantell from Oilsoft, Texas. Okay, here we go. Now, it's underway. Woodrow, isn't this exciting?
Bill, you know, looking back, I bet you're sure glad we kicked Dutch out of our group. Huh? What do you think, baby?
He cramped our style.
Did he cramp our style or what?
Okay, now, here we go now. It's Lawler. Oh, beautiful move by Pat Rose. Beautiful move.
Beautiful.
A beautiful hip toss. You got him, Pat. Oh, collar and elbow tie up. Now, here we go. It's Lawler again. Shot him off again. Oh, he pulled his tights, Budrow.
Did you see
right? Hey,
Calhoun.
He pulled his tights. Hey, Lawler. Lawler, you pulled his tights there, Lawler. Yes, he did. You pulled him, Lawler. Yeah, you did. You pulled him. Lance Russell always gives biased opinions, or he gives his opinion, and I'm giving mine. You pulled him. Hey, I'm giving an opinion like Lance Russell usually does, and it's biased. You're right, it's biased. That's Pat Rose, all 202 pounds of him. Legal maneuver. Well, you got to give Pat credit, brother, because there ain't too many people can throw the king around like that except you and me, Budrow.
That's right, baby. That's exactly right.
Collar and elbow hook up. Lawler back at the ropes. He took the coward's way out. Well, you got to give him A for effort there, too, Budrow. Now, Pat's tagging Big Brother Bill in.
Yeah, but he couldn't have backdropped us, though, baby. That's the bottom line.
You know, Bill used to be a bouncer down there at Desperados. That's how he got into throwing all the drunks out in Memphis. Come on, Lawler. Hey, just get into him, Lawler. Don't worry about it. You probably get a job over at September's place now or something.
Yeah, old Doug and David's place. Go over there and hear Danny Joe Bryant play.
Oh, no, that ain't right. Lawler,
Look at that double teaming, man.
Them. That ain't right. As Lance Russell says, brother, Lawler's got one of the best right hands in the business. Now he's punching him on the floor. That ain't right, Lawler. You got to wrestle in the ring. Hey, we're the commentators. He don't want to talk to us. He ain't talking to nobody. You just get up in there. We'll ring the bell and disqualify you. Hey, we're getting a new job.
Hey, if we didn't have $500 suits on, baby, we'd dust your drawers for you.
That's right.
Right, Bill.
That's right. Now, here's Dirty Dutch Mantell. Now he punched him. Referee should... Oh, now, that ain't right.
He couldn't do that to us, baby.
That ain't right, Mantell. Not at all. Now he pulled him up by the hair. Held his tights and slammed him.
What's that red around Dutch's neck?
That ain't sunburn. Now, there's a good legal move there. Oh, now, Lawler outsmarted him. Well, you're going to give the boy A for effort. I mean, he just, Pat, I don't know. Lawler headbutted him with the back of his head there, Calhoun. You ought to disqualify Lawler and hold up their hand, man. I'm telling you, he just wrestled.
Hey, you better be glad we're in a good mood, brother.
There was no dress up, brother. That's right, cheated, Pat. That's right, I'm telling you. Hold up their hand, Calhoun. That's right. Come on, Mantell, get out, get out. This is one-on-one. Hey, isn't this great?
Calhoun, you need to brush up on the techniques of refereeing, baby.
Now look at Lawler going ahead. Do that strut there, Pat. Oh, well, that ain't right. Calhoun, he ought to disqualify him, Lance Russell. That ain't right.
Look at all this double tail.
Two on one. That ain't right, Russ. That ain't right, Lawler. Now look at Mantell hitting him from the outside. That ain't right at all, man. No, that ain't right. 2 on 2, Calhoun. Hey, we're the commentators. We get paid to do the talking.
Don't forget we're extremely handsome, too, Bill.
Extremely. It's horrible being a sex symbol, ain't it?
Brother, it's hell. We could write novels, you know that?
I'm telling you. Now where are they going? They're chickened out. They're chickened out, man. I'm dog butter. I wouldn't believe it. They're chickened out. They actually left the ring. Oh. 9, 10. Oh, that makes them the winners.
Hey, we're used to seeing them run, baby. We're used to seeing them run.
What? I'm telling you. Okay, I love it. Right here on television. Bud Rose and Bill Rose beat the team of Jerry Lawler and Dirty Dutch Mantell. Hey. Hey, goodness. Oh, my God. What a fitting end. Well, we got our microphones back at least, and there's no competitive guest over there. Off comes the coat of Landell. Lawler going after the trousers, ripping Dundee's clothes apart. Landell's shirt ripped off.
And I think maybe the end of the Bill and Buddy show over there. Lawler and Mantell had been listening to him. They finally left. They lost the match. They were counted out. But they came back armed with a chair and a wooden stool. And they went to work on the desk and got Landell and Dundee in the ring. The Roses are both in there, too, Pat and Bill.
Pat just got a shot as Lawler slammed together now. They're double teaming, triple teaming Lawler as Bill Rose battling with Dutch. Dundee's clothes torn all apart. Dutch coming back on him. They're trying to pull Lawler off. David Johnson and Henry Rutledge. Lawler pounding Mantell. Referee takes a shot. Here comes some reinforcements.
Falk and Gaddafi and somebody else jumped in there. Oh, it's Lou Winston up on the apron.
Ring filling up now as Eddie Marlin comes out to try to get these guys apart. Mantell pushes past Jamison and goes after Landell. Lawler grabbing Dundee by the throat after Billy hit him. Finally get Lawler pulled back into the corner. Dundee takes another shot from Lawler. Landell breaks loose and goes after Dutch. There goes Dundee. Landell. Well, they may have been counted out and lost the match officially, but they sure didn't lose that one, Davey.
No, I think they ended up winning the war there. They're the ones left standing in the ring after everybody else is gone. Dutch Mantell and the King, Jerry Lawler.
All those things stem from originally talking about Gilbert, and I understand why. Going back to him, do you think that these promoters doing these tributes and stuff have done justice? A lot of people say that they're just trying to make money off.
You know, I love Dennis Caroluzza. I'm going to tell you something. Dennis Caroluzza, every time the Gilberts, because they got an Eddie Gilbert College Fund, every year that the Gilberts come there, Dennis Caroluzza hands them several $1,000s as soon as they get off the plane. So Dennis is it's a legitimate thing with Dennis Caroluzza. Now, there's other assholes out there that are selling tapes, that are that has never sent a nickel to the Gilberts. And so, for the reason that, you know, it's just like the junkyard dog died. Nobody showed up. But I just saw on the internet that somebody's having a benefit for the junkyard dog. For what? For what? Hell, the family ain't ever going to see it die. I hate it. I hate the tributes unless it's legitimate and the family's going to benefit. It was sad though. I missed the first one because of my knee surgery, but I went to the second and the third one. But the second one, I had to speak. It was me and Bill Walsh, Jimmy Cornette, and Harley Race was the speaker. And God, I mean, I'm a very emotional person. I mean, I'll cry because I have a lot of emotions, and I don't mind crying. Right before I spoke, they did a film clip of Eddie. And I mean, then they handed me the microphone and they cut the lights on. I'm over here just bellowing. And it was tough, man. It was tough.
Did you ever have any contact with the Von Erichs? I don't know if your paths ever crossed.
My wife said the two nicest guys that she's ever met in this business were Bobby Eaton and Kerry Von Erich. Sweet guy. Sweet guy. Well, you got to understand, back then, we all had money, we all had fast cars, we all worked our ass off, you know. And, you know, their deal was, I guess, the pills and stuff, man. I don't know, I think coming from the Von Erich family, I think those were some big shoes to fill. Hey, let me tell you something. I don't put any pressure on my children at all. I tell them, look, do the best you can do in school, you know. I'll be happy. If you do your best, I'll be happy with you. I don't put any pressure on them at all. You know, Fritz Von Erich put a tremendous amount of pressure on those kids. You know, number one, from coming out of the birth canal, they were Fritz Von Erich's kids. There was the pressure immediately, you know. I don't know what went on in that household, but it was apparently it was real deep. Sad to see all those guys kill themselves.
Yeah, and Bruiser Brody, you probably knew him a little better than some of the others.
Knew Frank very well. He's a funny guy, great guy, great guy. If he liked you, he liked you. He's like Stan Hansen. If he liked you, he liked you. If he didn't like you, you were screwed. He was a great guy. Like Smokey's dough and work hard.
You mentioned traveling.
You know, let me tell you a story about Bruiser Brody real quick. Brody was playing a game with his son prior to leaving Texas going to Puerto Rico. Had a little board game he was playing with his son, and he says, "It's time for me to go, honey. I got to go fly out." He goes, "Daddy, can we just finish this game?" He goes, "We'll finish it when we come back." And they never got to finish the game. It was sad. And then Abdullah, God love his heart. I love Abdullah the butcher, but the guy's, I mean, he's just, when it comes to being tactful, he's just tasteless. I mean, brother ain't got a clue how to be tactful. Brody's wife, they had called her and told her, "Look, something's happened to Frank. You need to get over here as quick as you can." And so we were all exiting. We were leaving the island. We were all in the airport leaving. Brody's wife comes up to Abdullah and says, "Well, what did Frank do now?" Butcher goes, "You didn't hear? He's gone. He's dead." She fainted. There you have it.
Shot to put some time in.
They had to break his legs. They had to break his legs and put him up underneath him, and the casket wasn't big enough. So they had to break his legs. That was sad. Give me another name, brother. I'm on a roll.
Well, tell us about Ric Flair.
You know what? In 1983, Flair came up and worked the shot. Let's see. No, wait a second. I believe it was 1985, prior to me working with him. I mean, I idolized this guy. I mean, this guy dressed to the nines, man. Rolex, the nice cars, the nice clothes. I mean, he was a great poster child for our business. I mean, this guy was, when you saw him out, I mean, you know, when he talked about being wealthy, you know, he dressed the part, man. You know, he was good for our business. I was in such awe of him. And I remember in St. Louis, I don't know if it was at the Checker Dome or the Kiel Auditorium. Anyway, I remember Flair going into the bathroom, opening the stall door, closing the stall door, dropping his pants and sitting on the commode. And I remember thinking, man, this guy's human. And I know that sounds stupid, but I just remember thinking to myself, he's just a human. You know, because I had him so high up here. And when he sat down to take a dump, I knew I just said to myself, this guy's human. Flair's a very nice guy. He really is. He's a real sincere guy. And if he likes you, he likes you. If he don't, there's not too many people I never knew Flair not like him. Flair had a tremendous amount of pressure on him daily. You know, being the world champion, flying to the other organizations representing the NWA, being the world champion. I mean, that was a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure. I mean, you know, here you're the world champion and you got to come in, you got to draw a good house and consistently draw, you know. It's a lot of, I can't imagine Flair never did drugs. He drank, but he never did drugs. Hell, that would have drove me to do drugs. I mean, just his schedule. Man. Hogan didn't have a schedule like Flair's. Hell no. Flair's the man. Always will be.
I know you have a lot of history with Arnie Anderson.
Yeah. A lot of history with Marty Lundy. Good guy. Very talented. Probably one of the sharpest witted guys in our business. Great interviews. Very sincere. Just a real all-around great guy.
He was the one that introduced you to Bischoff in '97, wasn't it?
Yeah. That went real well.
Mm-hmm. You've already said some nice things about Bobby Eaton.
Super. They don't come any better than Bobby. Eaton. He's great.
Yeah. Have you talked to him recently? Because he's still under contract with WCW.
You know, I saw him, I was looking on the internet the other day, Bill Goldberg's webpage, and it talked, it says victims, and I was the first guy on that list. I was the first guy he ever beat last June.
Yeah.
And I saw Bobby Eaton in last June. You know, Bobby's one of those guys where you don't see for 10 years. You see him, you hug and kiss each other, and hey, how you doing? Step right back in, you know. He's a man, one of the greatest workers. If Bobby Eaton could have done a good interview, world champion. You had guys that could wrestle great, but they couldn't do an interview. You had guys that could do a great interview, that couldn't wrestle. Very seldom did you have guys like Flair, Arn Anderson, myself, you know, guys like that that could do a good interview. I think Shawn Michaels is the bomb, man. I mean, I think Shawn Michaels is by far the best worker in our business. Probably ever. Probably ever. Even above Flair.
Even above Flair. Huh?
Even above Flair. And the greatest thing about it is when I worked with Flair, when I worked with Flair, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, any of them, none of them ever opened their mouth. I always called the match, which was good for me because it was just like they had a tremendous amount of respect for my credibility, creativity. I'll always remember that. I'll always remember them telling me, "You call the match." It was great. 23 years old, wrestling the world champion. He says, "You're the heel. You call it. You're the man."
How about Dusty Rhodes? Because I know professionally you guys have...
Dusty actually gave me my first. Dusty actually gave me my first big break, which was in '85. Dusty was always in my corner, man. He loved me, and I was always on the private jet. Always the party. I was invited. I never went to none of their parties, which is political suicide. But I just.
She never went to the famous Ric Flair parties?
No. I never was into that, man.
Yeah.
I was a loner. Man. I never really cared about going and playing the games, you know. I had a shitty attitude back then. I just never, you know. Here's a good Dusty Rhodes story. We flew in to Charlotte, Butler Aviation over here. We was sitting on the tarmac, and if you wanted to suck up to Dusty, you stayed there and you drank beer with him on the airplane watching Willie Nelson videos all night. I mean, I'm talking till the sun comes up. So me and Dusty and Crockett's on the plane. We're all hammered. And there's a jet next to ours. And it's a beautiful jet. It's white with Indian stuff all over it. I asked the woman, I said, whose airplane is that? And she said, that's John Denver's. He's playing Carowinds over here. I went, oh man, because I love John Denver. I went, that's cooler than hell. So me and Dusty get off the plane. We're hammered. I looked at Dusty. Dusty looked at me. We hadn't zipped our pants and we pissed all over John Denver's airplane. Crockett just staggering, looks at us, just. We were in Jacksonville, Florida, and I can't remember what happened. I remember Flair and I was drinking in a bar, and we was getting on the elevator, and there was a businessman on the elevator. And right as soon as the doors were getting ready to close, Crockett was going to get on the elevator. Well, by this time, I told the businessman, I said, look out, man, I've got to piss. So I'm pulling out, and I'm pissing in the elevator, man. And the businessman gets off, Flair's rolling, Crockett's going, oh my God. So Flair's on one end of the hallway. I'm on the opposite. I mean, he's at the very end room, and I'm at the very end room on the other end. Well, Arn Anderson's calling us up. He's staying in the middle on the other side. Arn Anderson's, I can't remember what happened, but, well, I do remember, but I'm not going to say what happened. I'm not going to say what happened. But anyway, wound up, Flair was in his room, I was in my room, and Arn was in the hallway, and me and Flair's naked on that side of the hall, on that end of the hallway. I'm naked on this end of the hallway, and we're screaming, laughing, having a good time. And there's this, I'll never forget this little old gray-headed lady opens up the door, and she looks down at that end, sees Flair naked, blonde-headed guy. She looks down at this end, sees me naked, another blonde-headed guy, and she just shakes her head and closes the door on everything. That's good.
What are some other stories? You're saying you traveled 100,000 miles when you're working for Bill Watts.
Yeah.
What other stories?
I rode with Dennis and Bobby and Jimmy Cornette, most predominantly. A lot with Steve Williams and Ray Hernandez. What are some stories about Louisiana?
That's what comes to mind.
That was hard. That's like being in prison doing a hard time, man. God, we were in a lot of fights back then. A lot of fights with the fans. A lot. We just have to watch each other's backs. I mean, there was several instances where Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express were wrestling, and they'd do a hot finish, and I always just seemed like I just kept running out. You know, I remember one time they were coming out of the ring in Baton Rouge, and this guy had hit, I believe he hit Bobby Eaton coming out of the ring. Jimmy Cornette used to carry that damn tennis racket. He had two sheets of metal on each side of that, and then I had a horseshoe taped to that tennis racket. Well, the tennis racket weighed 10, 12 pounds. And I mean, he'd hit the marks too. I mean, he'd knock them out. So one of them hit Bobby, a fan had hit Bobby Eaton and was running across the floor, and I leg dived. I tackled him. About that time, then Bobby Eaton comes right down across the guy's head with that tennis racket. Whack. That's just, you know, it was just dangerous, and we had to fight. Lots of times we fought our way out of places. Jimmy Cornette will fight you too. I'm telling you, Jimmy Cornette will fight you in a heartbeat. I like to say we survived the class of '84. I think 1984 was the best roster of talent ever put together in this business. I personally think
I think a lot of people agree.
that.
I think a lot of people agree.
Yeah, it was a great time, man. Hard time though. My poor wife, God love her.
But a lot of wrestlers don't, so you've been with your same wife now.
18 years.
18 years. A lot of wrestlers haven't managed to do that.
Hey, it's all God, man. It's God, because she should have left me years ago. I mean, with the drugs and the infidelity and everything that you think that, you get trapped up in, you think she go with Star. I don't know, man. She's been very good to me, though. She loves me, believes in me. And she's a good mother. And I love her with all my heart. If I could take back my whole life and do it over again, I probably would have done the drugs. I probably would have done that. But if I could take something back, I wish I'd have never been unfaithful to my wife. I wish that more than anything. I do. If I could take everything back, I would take that back. I do. Yeah. That bothers me more than anything. That bothers me more than not being the world champion. That bothers me more than not having a big contract now. That bothers me. Because you don't think about it at the time, but when you change your life and and you look back in retrospect, and you see how you've treated this person that's lived with you. You know, when your mind gets clear, and you see how you've treated this person that you say that you love. I mean, it's a horrible thing. It's hard to live with.
Well, I have one other question. I was going to ask you this too when we were talking about the Nature Boy thing. How hard is it to separate your the Nature Boy persona from your personal life, particularly back when you were getting started?
Well, I lived 24 hours a day back then. You know, there was a time where you didn't have time to think. I mean, you worked, you went to bed, got up, and caught a plane. But I mean, I was emulating Flair. You know, I was just trying to do the things he did. If he bought a new car, I'd buy a new car. You know, if he bought something, I'd buy it. You know, and I was just, I lived it 24 hours a day. Now, I go out with a hat and ponytail and sunglasses and hope nobody knows me. I think that was a big downfall. I think that was I put a lot of pressure on myself to be Flair. I'm not Flair, and Flair's not me. You know, we're alike in a lot of ways and totally opposite in others. And I just tried to be him so much. I got trapped up in that life, man, and it swallowed me whole. You know, and it took me a long time to dig my way out of it. Now, you know, I just live my life. It's hard because when I go wrestle, I mean, you have no idea the hell I go through when I come out and I wrestle in a place that I've never wrestled in, or I hadn't been in a long time, and they say, "I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee, the Nature Boy, Buddy Landell," and you can imagine, here it comes. "You're not Nature Boy, you're Ric Flair's the Nature Boy." I've had to put up, try going out to that shit every night of your life. Try going out to that stuff. That's hard. You have to be a strong person mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, I think, to put up with a lot of shit I put up with. You know.
I mean, I'm sure you've learned a lot since you were a junior and decided to drop out of school and start up professional wrestling. If you had all the knowledge that you have now when you were once again a junior, do you think you would have been a pro wrestler?
You know, when I was a junior in high school, I had a lot of letters of intent to go to play college football. You know, I don't know if I would have went and played college football, because although I was a great high school athlete, college ball is a different level. And then going from college to pro, that's really a different level. Ask Ron Simmons. I mean, you can be a great college player, and that next step is just, I mean, it's different. It's a different level, man. Sometimes I think, well, maybe I could have gone and got an education, done, you know. But man, I've seen so much, and I've got to witness and live so much of life that I don't think that I would have ever got to. Even if I was a PhD and a doctorate, and I was a doctor and all the other business, I don't think that I would have got to experience as much as if I was. I think I would have done the same thing. I'd have done the same thing. I'd have done a lot of things different. I'd have done a lot of things different. I've done a lot of things different. But I'd have still been a wrestler.
Yeah. I know I keep dragging on the last question and stuff, but you know, obviously your body's going to be limited the number of years you can put into the sport.
Right.
After that time has come, I'm not saying it's anytime soon, do you want to stay in wrestling in some fashion, or is it something you want to walk away from and try something else?
No, I'll walk away. Yeah. See,
and a lot of people
it was hard for me. It took me several years to go from the mentality of, man, I had it and I blew it. You know, can I get it back? Then I chased that dream for a while. Then I come to the conclusion, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And I feel sorry for guys like Flair and Arn Anderson, guys like that this is all they know. See, I know in my mind, I've made that transition to where, because I've weaned myself off of the main event mentality to just the independence, you know. I do things now. I wrestle in places and take bookings that's so embarrassing now that if you'd have told me 10 years ago that I was going to be doing it, I'd have laughed at you. But I do it now, and I look and I think about these guys that all they've ever known is the main event, and it's going to be a hell of a transition going from there to normal life. You know, it's going to be a lot of therapy. But I made the transition. I know there's life without wrestling.
Well, I'll let you decide how you want to end it and say goodbye to everybody that was watching this tape. Anything you want that's on your mind?
Well, I just appreciate the opportunity to sit down and you know, talk, and that somebody. I'm flattered that somebody would think that, you know, what I've done in this business would, or what I've contributed to this business would be worthy of being on tape. And I enjoy the fans. I really do. A majority of the fans are really nice and respectful. You know, I just like to say that nobody can be on top of the main event forever. You know, there's going to come a time to where, you know, Dan Marino or Joe Montana, whoever it is, I mean, you know, whatever level of success you achieve in life, there will be a day when you have to walk away from it, voluntarily or involuntarily. Just take it easy on them, man. If a guy was a main event, now he's doing independence, just, you know, let him, you know, just take it easy on him. Try to remember, you know, just have some. Most of the fans have respect. You have some idiots out there that go with the latest angle that's on TV, and that's the only thing hot. I mean, you know, it's. I am glad that I got to be in the business at a time when wrestling was wrestling. I'm glad that I got a chance to be in the business and work with guys like Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat, Shawn Michaels, and guys like Jimmy Cornette, Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton. I'm glad that I got to experience, you know what I'm saying, the era that I was in. Although I'm just 37 now, my wife and I were looking on the internet the other day, and I'm still like, Bret Hart's 44, 45, Ricky Morton's 46, 47, Flair will be 50, Hogan. Hey, if you're going to gauge my career on who's on top now, Savage is in his 40s. I mean, I've got several years left.
Definitely.
And although I've been in the business 20 years now, people look at me like I'm an old timer. But I'm relatively one of the youngest guys out there, you know, still. And so anyway, that's about it. Just appreciate everybody and support your independent wrestling.
Well, thank you very much for
Thanks,
taking
man.
your
It's been
time.
great.
And,
God bless you. I love all of you.
Okay.
Yeah. 1 minute remained on the tape.
Okay, give it a second. All right, we were all done, and then there was one thing that we left
Yeah, I
off.
wanted to add this. I wrote this because a lot of people think wrestlers are one-dimensional. Well, I write music and poetry, and I play the drums and all this other stuff. Anyway, I wrote this song to the tune of the Beverly Hillbillies, and I wrote it about Flair. It goes, let me tell you a story about a little fat boy. He came from Minneapolis, wanted to be a cowboy. He met George Scott and bleached his hair. And everywhere he went, the people would stare. Well, Buddy Rogers couldn't believe that the little fat boy had the audacity to steal his gimmick and make it to the top. Flair met Landell and got his bubble popped. Well, he's been a great champ, but it's time to realize that his hair is graying and he has sagging eyes. He better realize that his time's growing thin. He's getting a little heavy and he's got a double chin.